A family of 5 is murdered under mysterious circumstances.
The word is it was a ritualistic homicide that had religious overtones and probably involved sexual assault.
But the real method to the killer's madness is even more twisted.
This is more out of control than I've ever seen.
There's something really wrong here.
Lieutenant Joe Kenda must uncover the truth before he becomes the next casualty.
Get out of here!
I was driven to be in homicide. It consumes you. Now that's the price I paid for the work I did. Was it worth it? Yeah, it was. I put people in a cage who need to be in one, and they're not getting out. My name is Lieutenant Joe Kenda. I've solved almost 400 homicides. Every case is unique, but there's one thing that never changes. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories.
It's Sunday afternoon in Colorado Springs. Church crowds are trickling home. Football fans are gearing up for a Broncos game. And on the east side of town, Officer Charles Ackerman is enjoying a peaceful day on patrol. Suddenly, Ackerman's radio crackles with a call to service.
29213 18th Avenue South.
Dispatch is requesting a police presence at a home on South Hancock Avenue.
Family members had called in, hadn't heard from the parties, and they wanted their welfare checked. Make sure everybody was okay and have them contact the family. I knocked on the front door.
Police department?
There was no response. I proceeded my way around the building itself, see if I could find any open doors.
But while walking past a side window, Ackerman makes a startling discovery.
That's when I observed a body laying inside the residence. Initially, I thought somebody may have been sleeping on the floor.
You okay?
Bang harder on the windows and yell at them, try to get somebody to come. But with no reaction, body wasn't moving at all. Then you start thinking the worst.
Ackerman pries open the window and rushes to the woman's aid. Her vitals confirm his fear.
I found the body to be actually cold to the touch, no pulse.
Ackerman can find no sign of physical trauma on the woman's body, but the state of her clothing raises suspicions of foul play.
I noted that the pants were undone, her blouse was lifted up, like possible sexual assault.
The body at Officer Ackerman's feet is just the beginning. Sweeping the premises, he quickly finds himself stepping through the scene of a brutal massacre. One that would haunt Ackerman and his fellow officers for decades to come.
Step everybody up.
I don't care how many homicides you've been to. It's one of the unpleasant tasks as a police officer and a detective to go to a scene like that. It's the sort of thing that you really dread.
It was just such a bizarre scene. In the first place, to come across that many people dead in the same place would be horribly rattling. There were just so many possibilities.
Notified my supervisor, advised him that we need to have major crimes come out and take a look at this.
Lieutenant Joe Kenda is heading back to the station when an urgent call comes in.
Who it was a frantic police dispatcher spitting out information about a multiple death going on at 503 South Hancock, followed by, get here right now, on my way.
Minutes later, Kenda pulls up at the scene. The house is swarming with both law enforcement and local media, all of them looking for clues that might explain the carnage inside.
Hey, LT.
How you doing? What do we got?
Crime scenes are always chaotic. Lots of things happening. This was beyond the pale. This is more out of control than I've ever seen one. There are lots of cops, including the entire command staff of the police department, to include the chief of police.
That's a big deal, particularly on a Sunday afternoon. There's something really wrong here.
There's a reason there are so many detectives at the crime scene. Officers have discovered not one body, but 5.
They said there's 5 bodies in there, young kids, and a woman. They're all dead. And I'm thinking, oh, God. Not that.
I don't care how callous you are or experienced, when you see dead children, it's pretty bad.
Ackerman explains that he stumbled on the younger victims while securing the scene.
As I proceeded through the house, I found that several of the children inside the residence also deceased. As I checked them, a couple of them had blood leaking from the mouth around the facial area, but not all of them did.
Ackerman believes that all 5 victims were killed in the same manner, but he still can't figure out exactly what that manner was.
There was no signs of any major trauma, major injuries, such as blunt trauma or a knife wound or a gunshot wound or anything like that.
But according to Kenda's men, there's much more to the story.
Also, there's some kind of altar above the fireplace. So some kind of cult thing.
The word is it was a ritualistic homicide that had religious overtones and probably involved sexual assault. What?
Well, he found a dead cat on a homemade altar, and it appeared that maybe the cat might have been sacrificed.
Responding officers have theorized the murders were the work of a devilish cult,
I take the quiet possession of a madness,
one that raped the woman, killed her and her children, then sacrificed their cat as part of some dark ritual.
whatever evil beast or danger lies.
To Kenda, it's a theory that sounds as bizarre as it does gruesome, but experience tells him not to discount it just yet.
As initial reports go, this was certainly pretty much over the top. But my experience tells me don't preconceive anything. They're talking about clothing disturbed. They're talking about a makeshift altar in the house with religious artifacts. I said, okay. That's the story? Yes. But there's only one way to find out. I'm going to go in there and look.
Stepping through the doorway, Kenda takes note of an odor he's come to know all too well.
It's the smell of death. You never forget that smell. That odor is unique, and it's overwhelming.
Kenda starts his investigation by examining the dead woman.
Her pants are unzipped, and the flaps are laid open. If clothing is disturbed, there's always a possibility of sexual assault.
At first glance, the woman's cause of death is unclear.
There are no wounds, there are no stab wounds, no gunshot, no anything.
Hoping to learn more about the possible cause of death,
Want to take me to the others?
Yes.
Kenda examines the children's bodies.
The children are ages 9, 11, 13, and 15. Their fingernails are turning black. These people have been dead for 3 or 4 days.
The cause of death is still unclear, and Kenda needs to find out if all 5 victims were the intended targets. And if so, why would anyone want to harm them?
Multiple victims, a dead animal, a homemade altar. This is certainly new. It's certainly no accident. But I don't know much else.
As Kenda soon finds out, there's more to this crime scene than meets the eye. But he won't rest until he uncovers the truth, even if it kills him.
I was driven to be in homicide. If you're gonna do it well,
She seems scared.
it consumes you. You're standing and holding that line.
In the afternoon hours of January 14th, Lieutenant Joe Kenda is standing at the scene of a massacre. A household of 5 has been found dead on South Hancock Avenue. The cause of death is unknown. Making matters worse, initial reports of a cult killing have brought droves of onlookers, as well as the local media, all crowding the tape line to get a look at the crime scene.
They were saying that they suspected a ritualistic murder, that they suspected sexual abuse.
But to Kenda, there's still one detail that doesn't gel with the notion of a ritual killing: the relatively pristine condition of the dead cat.
Animals tend not to be relaxed when they're being sacrificed. Was its head cut off? Is there a knife pinning it to the altar? No, no, no. There is no violence associated with this body of this animal. Why?
Suddenly, Kenda is struck by a strange sensation, the feeling that he's going to be sick.
It overcame me. Disorientation of the thought process, abdominal cramps that get more and more severe. I felt terrible.
Kenda has an epiphany, one that quickly snaps his symptoms into focus and casts the whole crime scene in an alarming new light.
I know what killed these people, and it's still present in this building.
We gotta get out of here.
What?
Now, we gotta get out of here.
I said, let's get out of here. Right now. Get out.
Get everybody back! Get everybody back! Everybody back! Seal up the house! Nobody goes in!
Hey, LT, you all right?
Kenda knows what the cause of death is, but he needs proof.
I called the utilities company to send a guy out with a device, a test device, that is designed to take an air sample.
Within minutes, utilities rep David Jago is on the scene, equipment in hand.
I seen all the police department, you know, with all the flashing lights, and I was curious. I'm like, what am I doing here? I met Joe, and he shook my hand and he told me, he goes, I hate to do this to you, but you're the only one that can go in and see what's going on.
Wow, I'm already getting a hit.
The alarm goes off on his box. So he sticks his arm into the house.
The alarm went off immediately. I said, we have to leave now. We can't stay here.
This is absolutely fatal level of carbon monoxide. Absolutely fatal. It's really, really high. Highest I've ever seen. And this is really bad. So that's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. I call the fire department. I get a rig down there, turn off the gas at the meter, get your fans out of your truck and vent this building. They plug in fans normally used to disperse smoke from a fire scene.
Kenda gathers his team of detectives and tells them to forget everything they've heard about a cult killing. He has a far simpler explanation for the scene inside: carbon monoxide poisoning.
There is no sexual assault. There aren't any ritualistic overtones. There aren't any sacrifices of animals. What there is carbon monoxide. That's what's in this house. It is odorless, colorless, tasteless, and deadly.
And that's why they call it the silent killer, because it just comes up and gets you.
But in order to confirm his new theory, Kenda needs to take one more look at the victims' bodies. He starts with the young woman, the one that at first glance appeared to have been sexually assaulted.
Knowing one of the symptoms is severe abdominal cramps. A disoriented person would probably loosen their clothing at the waist because they're in pain. So the fact that she unzipped her pants is very explainable.
Kenda also notices the woman's splotchy, unnatural skin color. Another sign of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Carbon monoxide poisoning produces a particular effect in human bodies. It's referred to as cherry pink and apple blossom white. It is unique to that manner of death. Looking at the remaining 4 bodies and the same pink and white skin, it's obvious to me what has killed them.
Even the alleged animal sacrifice is starting to make sense. The cat wasn't ritualistically slaughtered. It simply crawled up and died. It appears that their alleged massacre is probably nothing more than a tragic accident, one likely caused by a faulty gas appliance. But Kenda has been at enough crime scenes to know that things are never what they seem.
I am unwilling to write off the death of 5 people until I know everything. There were 4 gas appliances in this house. So now the next step is to determine which one is the source.
Once the home is aired out, Kenda tasks utility worker David Jago with finding out. Detectives tell Kenda there's someone on the scene who he should have a word with.
Lieutenant, Scott says he owns the property.
An elderly man by the name of Daryl Atkinson.
He's a retired member of the fire department, a 72-year-old man who is very distressed and almost in tears over the death of these people. So we talked to him. He says, I've owned this house and rented it for 20-some years. There are no issues with the furnaces or with the stove. Never had a problem. Can't imagine this happening.
No problems.
David Jago emerges from the house and announces he knows the source of the leak.
I found the problem. The CO is coming from one of the heaters. I really think you should come take a look at it.
Jago has seen heaters turn deadly before, but never like this.
The amount of carbon monoxide that was escaping this device was considered to be unreasonably high.
It was pouring out 2,300 parts per million. It could kill you instantly.
Here's the problem. That's a heat exchange. It's put in backwards.
Jago explains that the heat exchanger is designed to channel exhaust fumes from the home. If installed backwards, it does the reverse.
The result is that this is going to produce nothing but carbon monoxide in huge amounts.
So when the burners had come on, it was spilling noxious fumes right into the house.
Atkinson is stunned.
You said that nobody's worked on this thing?
No, have not had it worked on.
He tells Kenda that the furnace rarely breaks down, and when it does, he always hired a licensed professional.
You wouldn't think a furnace person, a heater, ventilation, and air conditioning person would install it in backwards.
But the more Jago explains about the costly mistake, the more Kenda begins to wonder if the backwards heat exchanger was a mistake at all.
He says it's designed to only go in one way to prevent you from putting it in backwards. But someone hammered this in here. And he says to me, whoever did this had absolutely no idea what they were doing. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, or they did know.
That would certainly be a way to take care of somebody.
Kenda is now convinced that someone wanted everyone in that house dead. This is murder, and the stakes have changed.
Is it a killer who is hopeful that we won't find this, or we won't even look for it, and we'll write this off as an accident? That's what it looks like to me. Now I've got a mission. This is not an accident. Pure and simple. My focus now is on 2 things. First thing is victimology, and the second thing is who might be a suspect in something like this.
Kenda needs to find out who would want to see the family of 5 dead. Fortunately, detectives have found 2 women who might have some answers. Frances Chacon and Nellie Moreno.
My best 2 sources are standing right outside in the crowd, very distressed, so it's important we talk to them.
Frances and Nellie explain that the 3 youngest victims are their nephews, Mario, Danny, and Nash. The female victim is Frances and Nellie's sister, 34-year-old Sophie Gerardo.
She just had the heart of gold. Everybody loved her. That's just the way she was. And she loved her kids.
Sophie is a hard worker. She works to keep her family together. Always in low-end jobs, but always works. She's working poor.
Guys, just set those in your room.
Kenda learns the single mother had just saved enough money to move into the house on Hancock Avenue.
Once we get settled, we gotta go back out.
Frances tells Kenda that the fifth victim is her own son, Mark.
He had a great personality. Everybody loved him. He was real good at, taking care of me, like a little man.
He was just wonderful. He was helping her move. He loved Sophie. He was always hanging out with Sophie. You want me to do this, Auntie? Do you want me to do this, Auntie? So good-hearted. And it's a lot like Sophie, a lot like her. He's one of the best kids I ever knew. He would have been a really good man.
The sisters' description of a humble, loving family makes their murders all the more unthinkable. Kenda has no choice but to inform them that foul play may be involved.
Can you think of anyone that had something against her, that she was fighting with, someone that would want to see her hurt?
But Nellie's reaction stops Kenda in his tracks.
Nellie Moreno was absolutely convinced her sister had been murdered. Nellie says she has 2 boyfriends. The 2 guys know about each other, and they don't like each other. Ooh. Not only we have suspects, we have 2 of them.
On January 14th, 1990, Lieutenant Joe Kenda found single mother Sophie Gerardo poisoned to death along with her 3 sons and nephew. The culprit is carbon monoxide spilling from Sophie's living room furnace. But after learning that someone converted the furnace into a killing machine, Kenda's search for the true killer is just getting started.
Is this an accident? Is it on purpose? I know the method. I don't know the manner. So now I have a question to resolve. Who could be involved in this?
Kenda puts that question to the women who knew Sophie best, her sisters, Frances and Nellie. But before Kenda even mentions the word murder, Nellie offers up a pair of prime suspects.
Nellie Moreno was absolutely convinced her sister had been murdered.
According to Nellie, Sophie was juggling 2 boyfriends, and the situation was a constant source of drama.
We have actually a triangle. That's something you have to look at. Was there jealousy? Was there any, domestic problems between the deceased and one of the boyfriends?
There's always some problem going on between her and these 2 guys. They're, in her opinion, rats. Both of them are.
They kind of were just like losers, they were like moochers, I would say.
Nellie also tells Kenda that Sophie had a turbulent relationship with both of her boyfriends.
What the hell are you doing having this man coming in and out of my house when I'm gone?
Look, you need to go.
Shut up! I said shut up!
Nellie says, I am convinced that one of them killed Sophie, and they had to kill the kids because the kids know. Ooh. Not only we have suspects, we have 2 of them. And if anything that Nellie is saying is even close to true, we have 2 good ones.
You know these guys' names?
Nellie provides Kenda with the names of both men, Nathan Joyce and Kevin Cusick.
So what do I know about Kevin and Nathan? They fight with Sophie all the time. Kevin has stolen her welfare checks from her. There's always a disturbance. There's always some kind of argument going on. Nathan and Kevin know each other. They don't like each other. They don't like her half the time. And consequently, I like them.
Later that day, Kenda sits down to speak with Sophie's boyfriend, Nathan Joyce.
This is crazy. Why am I here?
He's angry, he's nervous, he's all the right stuff. He argues, he fights. I like that too.
But when Kenda starts asking about Sophie's murder, Nathan softens up fast.
Do you have any information about her death at all? Anything you can think of?
He started crying in the conversation. He also admits that, I love Sophie. I feel so bad that she's dead. Nathan was genuinely distraught.
Why don't you tell me about your relationship? Were you upset when you found out she was dating this other guy, Kevin?
Honestly, I'm the other guy.
What are you you doing here?
I came to see you. I've been missing you.
Yeah, but you know Kevin could be around.
When are you gonna leave that guy anyways?
He knew he was stepping in on somebody else's woman, but he was so attracted to her, he didn't care about that.
But Sophie's original boyfriend, Kevin Cusick, certainly did.
What you tell me about Kevin?
I ain't having it down at all. You gonna have somebody come in and out of my house? Are you out of your mind? I said shut up.
Kevin struck her. There would be physical confrontation between the two of them. Sophie would get so angry with Kevin, she told Nathan about it.
Were you ever abusive toward her? Any kind of altercations? Any physicality whatsoever?
I'm in love with her, man.
Shove, slap, anything?
No.
Any arguments, fights?
No, never.
Nathan claims he never laid a finger on Sophie or the kids. By now, Kenda can't help but believe him.
He just doesn't impress me as a guy who would kill. He impressed me as a lovesick dope who just wanted to be around Sophie and didn't really think about much else. So I tell him, okay, for now, go home. We may talk again, but for right now, I'm gonna let you go.
After concluding his interview with Nathan Joyce, Kenda sets out on a hunt for his other suspect, Sophie's jilted boyfriend, Kevin Cusick.
Emotion drives murder. Money, sex, or revenge. There's no money here, but there's sex, and maybe there's revenge. Nathan is no longer a suspect, but I certainly know who is.
Less than 24 hours have passed since Sophie Gerardo and 4 children were found dead in their home. The 5 victims have been killed by the deadly odorless gas, carbon monoxide. Lieutenant Joe Kenda is convinced that someone deliberately rigged their furnace to murder the innocent family.
Who could kill 5 people? Why would they kill all the kids, you know? That don't make sense.
With that, Kenda shifts focus to his sole remaining suspect, Kevin Cusick. Kevin is clearly jealous enough to assault Sophie Gerardo, and Kenda and his detectives know that kind of rage can easily turn deadly.
That's a definite motive. If this person has a history of violence, he would be a good suspect, especially violence towards the victim.
Maybe he's mad about her dating Nathan. Or maybe he's just mad. So let's find out about Kevin.
A background check reveals Kevin Cusick works for a local construction company. Kenda decides to pay him a visit.
Kevin, can I talk to you for a minute?
Yeah, what's happening, man?
Kevin is a general laborer. He does pickup labor jobs, generally to construction companies that are building houses. If Kevin does this kind of work, where does that put him? It puts him in contact with tradespeople, heating guys, plumbers, electricians. Could he learn about how to make a furnace work? Could he learn about how to make a furnace not work? Yeah, he could. And no one would think anything of it.
Got some bad news for you.
What's up?
The girl Sophie you've been dating?
Yeah.
She and her 3 kids have all passed away. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
Like his romantic rival Nathan Joyce, Kevin Cusick seems genuinely distraught.
He's very distressed. He's crying over the deaths. He denies having anything to do with it. Absolutely denies it.
That doesn't stop Kenda from cutting straight to the chase.
I did receive information that you've been physical with her in the past. Put your hands on her?
Surprisingly, Kevin admits to the physical abuse.
I have. I ain't gonna lie, man. I have.
He says he's slapped her before. He says they fight all the time. It's always about Nathan. So he's the personality that wants to get even. The vengeful lover. That somehow she's slighted him. All of which he admits to.
Possible you might be upset that she was dating another guy also?
I was mad at it, yes.
But Kevin maintains he would never kill Sophie, let alone her whole family. Kenda asks Kevin about his whereabouts the days leading up to Sophie's murder.
Can you tell me where you were the past few days?
I don't know exactly where I was right this minute.
He has the best alibi in the sense that he doesn't have an alibi. He has no idea where he's been for 3 or 4 days. Most people don't. He is only occasionally employed. He's often alone. He comes across very honest about that. But he can't explain where he's been. So he doesn't have an alibi. Is that meaningful? Maybe. Not having an alibi is not enough.
In Kenda's experience, suspects this forthcoming are usually innocent of any crime.
He's actually pretty honest. Because all the reasons why I suspect him, he admits very clearly. No attempt at hiding it, not even an attempt at lying about it. He's very straightforward. He does have a motive, and he has opportunity, but is he the guy? I don't feel it. I just don't feel it about him. So I let him go. Go away. I'll be back in touch with you if I need to be.
Supposing Kenda's gut instincts are correct, it raises a difficult question. If abusive boyfriend Kevin Cusk didn't poison Sophie Gerardo and her family, then who did?
Someone's been recently inside this device. Someone who had possibly a motive to do harm to Sophie and her children. Who is he?
With Sophie's boyfriends cleared, the investigation is back to square one. In hopes of finding a new lead, Kenda talks to her landlord, Daryl Atkinson.
Well, I had some tenants before Sophie was in there that were really troublesome.
He says, the only problem I've had recently is I had some bad tenants in there. They were the last tenants to live here before I rented this place to Sophie. Oh, and who were they? Well, a young man and his young wife. Their name was Marvin and Brenda Hoget. I just thought they were bad tenants.
They were dirty. They weren't taking care of the apartment. They had pets when they weren't supposed to. And they were behind on their rent.
Atkinson tells Kenda he ultimately had to force the Hogets out. Kenda wonders if their dispute may have been cause for revenge.
Marvin, it's Daryl at the door.
Daryl? What do you need, Daryl?
I've warned you over and over again.
Warned me?
Eviction notice.
Eviction?
You've got 30 days.
Atkinson says, you know, maybe that guy Marvin tampered with that furnace. Well, why would you say that? Well, I remember he told me he was a heating guy.
It's a bombshell revelation, one that instantly rockets Marvin Hoget to the top of Kenda's suspect list.
Could he make a furnace work? Could he make a furnace not work? Yeah, he could. He's been in this place. He knows how it works and how it's heated. That puts Marvin clearly into the area of maybe tampering with that device.
It also makes Kenda wonder, were Sophie and the kids innocent victims in a sinister plot to poison landlord Daryl Atkinson?
Is it fate? Bad luck? I don't know. But the guy I like the best in this is Marvin Hoget. I want to talk to him. So we did a little background on him. We find out that he and Brenda are no longer together. Marvin lives in Denver. Brenda still lives in Colorado Springs. So for a matter of convenience, we talked to Brenda first.
Kenda meets Brenda Hoget at her new home and immediately starts asking her about Marvin.
Brenda?
Yes.
How you doing? Lieutenant Joe Kenda from the Colorado Springs Police Department.
Okay.
She confirms that as an experienced HVAC repairman, Marvin certainly had the training and experience to turn their landlord's furnace into a death trap.
I think it was called residential heating. He worked for them for a little while.
Kenda presses Brenda for more information about the feud with Marvin. That's when Brenda reveals a shocking detail.
We both got carbon monoxide poisoning from that apartment.
You two got carbon monoxide poisoning?
Yes.
I woke up with a headache. The only thing I remember is I was probably the sickest I have ever
been. I was lightheaded. I couldn't control any part of my body.
She says I was throwing up. My husband felt terrible.
Brenda?
My dad came by,
In here, Dad.
looked at us,
Call an ambulance right now.
said, "You're going to the hospital."
Moments later, EMTs were on the scene to whisk Brenda and Marvin to the hospital.
Can you talk to me?
You know what's going on?
Brenda claims that the next thing she remembers is waking up in the ER.
They told me that I had gotten sick from carbon monoxide. I didn't know much about it at all, and I certainly didn't know it could make you so sick.
Marvin borrowed a carbon monoxide detector from work and ran a test on the house. The results were alarming.
It was all over the heater itself, and he told me there was a lot in there.
She says, "I told my husband I'm not going back there. I'm not going back to that house."
It's a compelling account, one that seemingly absolves Marvin Hoget of any wrongdoing. Still, Kenda can't help but wonder if Brenda could be covering for Marvin.
That's a pretty good alibi. If it's true, well, let's find out if it's true. So now we gotta go find Marvin. Off to Denver we go.
But nothing could prepare Kenda for a confrontation with this suspect. And an account that would lay bare the whole horrible truth about what happened to the Gerardo family.
When this case begins, it's advertised as an animal sacrifice, mass rape, mass murder affair. What does turn out to be true in many ways is even more surprising than the initial claim.
On the morning of January 16th, detectives are searching for the person responsible for killing a family of 5 with their own furnace. Lieutenant Joe Kenda and his men are closing in on their newest lead, 27-year-old heat and air expert Marvin Hoget.
He would have had knowledge of heating and ventilation and may have caused the furnace to become a killing machine.
Investigators suspect that landlord Daryl Atkinson might have been Marvin Hoget's intended victim, seeking payback for being thrown out of their home. And Sophie, Gerardo, and the 4 children were simply collateral damage. But according to Marvin's estranged wife, Brenda, she and Marvin suffered a similar, near-lethal attack of carbon monoxide.
So let's find out if he did tamper with the furnace, like the landlord said he could have. I want to talk to him.
That afternoon, Kenda tracks Marvin to his home in Denver.
Can I help you? Marvin? Yeah. How you doing, Lieutenant Joe Kenda, Homicide Department?
There, he immediately brings up the furnace in question.
You guys had some issues?
We both had a bad case of carbon monoxide poisoning. They said we actually almost died from it.
He says they took us to Memorial Hospital. They kept us there for 7 or 8 hours until they cleared all that out of our systems and got us some good oxygen.
And Marvin claims he can prove it.
I think I've got a bill around here if you want to see it.
Can I see it?
Absolutely.
Emergency services were called. They were transported to the hospital by way of ambulance. Brenda and her husband were hospitalized due to carbon monoxide poisoning at the same address.
It seems Marvin's alibi is rock solid. After all, why would the former tenant tamper with the furnace in order to make himself the first victim?
So he became a person of non-interest at that moment. He's not my guy.
Still, the prior incident is enough to convince Kenda that Marvin could be the killer's true target.
He said if that is damaged, cracked, or otherwise broken, it could cause carbon monoxide in some amount to enter the building.
Kenda asks Marvin if he has any idea who might have tampered with the furnace. According to Marvin, there can only be one culprit: his former landlord, Daryl Atkinson.
Marvin says, I called him and I told him that appliance was bad. Atkinson arrives, comes into the house. Atkinson says to him, this furnace is no good. It's old I need to fix it.
Kenda is stunned. The elderly landlord seemed like the last person anyone would accuse of a 5-count homicide.
He impressed me as a pleasant little old man, retired fireman, hard-working. Everything about him is completely appropriate. Why would he do something like that?
But Kenda quickly discovers that Daryl Atkinson's motive probably had little to do with murder and everything to do with money.
Marvin says this guy Atkinson is the ultimate cheapskate. If it needs fixing, he doesn't call a licensed heating contractor or a plumber or anything else. He fixes it himself as cheaply as he possibly can.
It's an eye-opening theory, one that pins the death of Sophie Gerardo and her family squarely on Daryl Atkinson.
Atkinson told me he's never had a problem with these appliances. Never had an issue with anything.
Once he was caught in a lie, and there was more than one witness to substantiate the fact that he had knowledge of the inoperative furnace, and he was denying that, then we have a problem.
I'm no longer in a quandary about who my man is. It's a 72-year-old landlord. I'm prepared now to arrest him.
It's not like an insane person killed these people, you know, or a disgruntled boyfriend. No, I mean, it was something that could have been avoided.
With no clear evidence of intent to injure or kill Sophie and her family, Kenda decides to confront Daryl Atkinson. At 11 a.m., Kenda is knocking on the landlord's door.
Oh, hey, detective, come on in.
Inside, he lays out the charges against him.
Daryl, the reason I'm here, I believe you're directly responsible for the death of those 5 people.
How? What do you mean?
I tell him what Marvin and Brenda have told me. What do you have to say to that, Daryl? He says, that furnace, I never repaired it because there was nothing wrong with it. It didn't need to be repaired. But I think you did. I think you went and got a part. A heat exchanger for that old furnace. And then you put it in yourself because you were going to save the money. You had no idea what you were doing. None whatsoever. So you beat that thing into place with a hammer until you got it in there far enough to kill 5 people. You saved your $100, Daryl. He really started the ball when I said that. And I knew I was right.
It was just an honest mistake.
When confronted with the truth, Atkinson breaks down.
I didn't mean to do it. I didn't know it was in backwards. It was an accident.
He didn't want to own his responsibility and accountability after the deaths. He wanted to distance himself from what happened.
He continues to cry. He looks at me again and he says, if the court thinks I did something wrong, I'll take my medicine. Well, that's good, Daryl, because there's going to be some medicine involved. And I'm taking you to jail right now for killing these 5 people. Not because you meant to, but because you were too stupid not to.
What happens now?
You'll probably make bond.
He's still crying. He looks at me. He says, what's my bond gonna be? I don't know, Daryl. Probably $20,000 in cash. Goes to a coffee can on his stove and takes $20,000 in $100 bills out of the can. There's still plenty of money in the can. Daryl has done a terrible thing, and he's gonna have to pay a price for that. Take him to jail, book him in.
Daryl Atkinson posts bail and is released on his own recognizance. A day later, Kenda gets a strange call.
The usual frantic police dispatcher, suspicious death, possible code 9. Cop talk for murder. What's the address?
Kenda makes an alarming connection.
Is that Daryl Atkinson's residence?
404 East Caramel Street. That's where Atkinson lives.
Kenda fears the worst. He knows the landlord is out of jail now, and if word of his crime got around to the wrong people, he'd be a prime target for vigilante justice.
There was such community disgust about this. This guy was a firefighter. He knew the dangers of carbon monoxide. He probably had been involved in taking people out of places that had it. There was no excuse.
All the way there, I'm thinking, don't let it be the old man. Come on, not that. Something else.
But on arriving at the scene, Kenda immediately recognizes the victim, as well as the cause of death.
There he sits behind the wheel, pink and white, just like Sophie and her kids. He killed himself in the same way he killed that family. Carbon monoxide poisoning.
I think the person who realized better than anyone how senseless and horrible it was Daryl Atkinson. It was essentially a self-imposed death penalty.
I think it was an easy way out for him. And maybe he felt like he should die the way they died. I mean, it did surprise me. I can't say it didn't surprise me, but I can understand why he did it. I mean, how do you get over killing 5 people through your own recklessness?
Atkinson's suicide is a far steeper sentence than any judge would have handed down. Still, news of the landlord's death comes as little comfort to the loved ones of Sophie Gerardo and her family. They had other ideas for Atkinson.
I wanted him to go stand trial. I wanted to be there in the court. I wanted to go tell him what I thought about him.
For Joe Kenda, the landlord's death is the last of 6 tragedies that could all have been avoided for only $16 apiece. No one should die for that. Not Sophie Gerardo, not 4 innocent children, not even the man who killed them.
Every murder I ever investigated was senseless. But this one stood out.
On his way back to the police station, Kenda makes an unscheduled stop.
I got in my car and I drove to a convenience store. I had stopped smoking. I hadn't smoked a cigarette in 3 years. I walked in and I bought a pack of cigarettes. And I smoked every cigarette in that pack. Atkinson wasn't a monster. He was a silly old man who wanted to protect his money. It was a terrible series of events. And 6 people are dead. I'm not easily overcome. I've been exposed to a lot. But I felt really bad about that. I did.